me just like.
Oh, a water saver. Neat.
We're going over this great stuff here that Carlos from Bernalillo County left us when he was on earlier talking about Fix a Leak Week that was last week, or I'm sorry, next week. And he left us with the water saver usage meter. You can use this, right?
Yeah.
And then we've got this awesome little moisture meter. I know you guys are helping save cats, but you also garden?
Oh, yes.
This is the kind of thing everybody needs, you know, so you know how much moisture is in your water.
So can I just say that I'm really thankful that you guys are giving out the advice about the cats that you're doing, because let me just tell you, my wife's super allergic to cats, so I have like a predisposed, like, I won't say animosity, but I'm a dog guy by default. I have to be. So we moved into our new house, and 10 years ago, and the folks across the way, you know, their cats would just run free. They were in our yards, and we had our kids were toddlers at the time, and there was a big pile in the backyard that I was thinking, you know, just some dirt that got raked up, and then after a while, I went and looked closer, and there was like little chicken bones in it, and the cats had been using my backyard as a kitty litter for this whole time, and my kids running around, and they're at the age where they were picking up stuff and putting it in their mouth, and I was just like, what? So I went, tried to be as humane about it as possible. I signed out a little trap from the Humane Society. One of the cats came into the yard, sprang the trap, and it's like, you know what, I'm not going to turn this. I'm going to be the nice guy. I'm going to take the cat back to the owner. And I was just like, hey guys, just so you know, your cat's been jumping in the yard. Here it is. And they're like, oh my gosh, I'm so sorry. And they take the cat, and instead of going in the house, they're like, oh, that is so crazy. And they just let it out free, like right in front of me. They're in the street. And the cats were all over the place, like making their own society. It was like Lord of the Flies. A cat society blowing on shells.
So how do you said a lot of important things there.
Yeah.
I mean, number one, for someone who has allergies, who has cats, when the cats go outside, they bring all the allergens in.
Yes.
So if you keep your cat indoors and bathe it.
So you have far fewer allergens for someone who is allergic. The other thing is, obviously, if you have a cat that goes outside, you cannot keep them in your yard.
Right.
It's just no way. We were talking about enclosures for dogs. That's very different.
Yeah.
So in order for that cat to remain within their property, they have to be indoors.
Yeah.
And that was part of the point that we were trying to make earlier about enclosures. If you truly believe that the only way your cat can be happy is to have outdoor time, the enclosure is a sort of middle ground by which you've got a cat who is safe, but they're also out in the air and they get to see the birds and so forth. So it really provides the owner with that middle ground. But and part of what we're looking at doing is providing plans, and you can go online, YouTube, all kinds of things that show cat enclosures.
Yeah.
So what's a good way, if you're in Joey's position, how do you talk to your neighbors and say, please keep your cats indoors? I mean, what's a good way to talk to them about it without
especially if it's having an adverse effect on your yard, your kids, your family, your things like that, Right.
But you don't want to be that jerk of a neighbor who says, I hate your cat. You want to be the guy who's nice about it. How do you bring that up?
Well, one of the things that we have on your side is that in the city of Albuquerque, in the county of Bernalillo, and in Corrales, we do have a no trespassing law or a leash law, and this also applies to cats. So you can, if you know the address that the cat comes from, you can call up 311 and say that the cats that live at this address are coming into my yard, and the city will respond by sending them a letter and giving them a fine if they keep doing this.
And I think we wound up doing that after that first time. We did give the cat, caught it again, gave the cat to the city. They charged them a fine to get him back, and then it happened again, and they increased the fine to get the cat back again, and then it happened again.
Oh wow!
And then after that. We weren't allowed to borrow the trap anymore. They had to pass it on to someone else. But I was just wowed by it all.
There are sometimes when it's difficult for you to have that conversation with your neighbor because they have a different philosophy.
Right. A lot of people think the cats should be outdoors, and a lot of people.
And that was why we offered the notion of enclosure. But some of these materials sort of give people options. But the other thing is, and I know the Audubon Society is interested in this and other groups as well, is early education of the children, because sometimes if the parents won't listen, you can get to the children and the children go home and say, you know, Mom and Dad, I just learned in school that we shouldn't have our cats outside. So there
Yeah.
might be some other ways to approach it. But
Well,
this is,
I love it that just there's attention that you're bringing attention to it just in general.
Well, we were talking about the $17,000 watch. Can you imagine what the cat rescue group could do with $17,000?
well, I was just saying
Right.
earlier, $17,000, we'd almost pay off some of our medical bills. So
Right.
that would be a wonderful boon to our organization and most of the rescue organizations as
Right.
well.
That's a lot of money to have a clock that would have a picture of your cat in the background.
Right.
That's a really expensive frame. You know, oh, there's Mr. Princel.
Actually, we were talking about the $17,000 watch. You're a Pebble guy.
I'm a Pebble guy.
This is the other smartwatch. This is the one that started on
one of the
Kickstarter.
first ones. Yeah, this was on Kickstarter. I was one of the first investors on that. It was about $150, and it was at the very beginning, so it took about a year and a half to become a reality.
Right.
And then I finally got in the mail, and I was able to adopt it to my lifestyle pretty easy, and I'd never taken it off since, and it was
Very
so
cool.
cool.
Yes.
A little Pebble watch, and you can
Yeah.
get little
And the Pebble 2 is coming out.
the Pebble too, the Pebble Time, it's color.
Yeah.
So I was like, 17 grand, $150 again.
Right.
JoJo's in on that new one,
Right.
that new Pebble.
Absolutely. Absolutely. Well, we can find out a whole lot more about everything you guys are doing at your website, which is
cnmas.newmexicoaudubon.org.
and that's a long website, cnmas.newmexicoaudubon.org. And then you guys
Ours
have
is
one also.
Equally long. It's, unfortunately, petfinder.com/shelters/nm53.html.
That's way too much to remember.
Way too much.
But you can remember the Companion Animal Rescue and Medical Assistance Group in New
Right, and
Mexico.
it's Karma with the C, C-A-R-M-A, because we deal with companion animals.
Very cool. I've got a companion dog that I rescued.
you
She's wonderful. Big, hairy Newfoundland thing.
Awesome.
She's a great dog.
And we do dogs and cats, so we're just talking about cats today, but we have many dogs in our care, both
Excellent.
large and small.
Well, you can find out more about the Morning Brew, too. We have our own awesome website. You can find us at themorningbrew.tv. And on that site, you can see pictures of me. You can watch clips, find out more about the show and everything. And then we also have an awesome social media presence. And you can find us on YouTube. You can find clips of the show, everything, on YouTube at Morning Brew. Find us on Facebook, our Morning Brew Show. And you can tweet to us at My Morning Brew on Twitter. And real quick, I got to ask you a little bit more. What do you think will happen in Zoolander 2? Remember
All
the
kinds
original
of blue
one?
steel.
Right.
Like literally, it could be just like, hey, remember we made that first movie, and just do that the whole movie, and I'd be down.
Well, what I remember about the first movie, they had this great scene where they were talking about the world's smallest cell phone. Remember that?
Yeah.
And now we have these giant bricks. I'm wondering if their phones are going to get bigger and bigger in the new one.
Yeah.
Well, we'll be back next week with a whole lot more great, awesome Morning Brew show. And I'm going to take this home and experiment with the moisture meter. And
Put
see
that
how much
in your
water.
garden. Yeah.
Put this in the garden, see how much rain and snow we're getting on the Morning Brew with friends.